I started knitting in December of 2023, and since it's the end of another calendar year, that means it's the end of another year of knitting for me. I've been knitting for 2 years, and here is everything I made in my second year of knitting. I'm not going to go through every single detail about these projects. You can find all of that information on my Ravelry, but I do want to just kind of recap what I made, remind myself of what I made, and then kind of give myself a second opportunity to mention anything about it, since once I'm done knitting something, it often doesn't come up again, and a couple of these projects I have some thoughts after the fact. And at the end, of course, I'm going to give you a kind of summary of what I made, how many things, what type of things, the different categories and ways you can kind of break down the data. So I think let's start off with the heavy hitters, which are my garments I knit this year. I have next to me 3 completed garments and I have 1 work in progress. First up is my Nord sweater. This is my first ever circular yoke, colorwork, stranded colorwork pattern. I have a whole recap video specifically about this, but this was a huge success, this project. I really enjoyed making it. It didn't take me that long. I love the feeling of it. I wear it all the time. I think the short sleeve sweater is really slept on as a garment. Not many people make them or wear them anymore. I think it's really, really practical. I love the colors. I get a lot of compliments on this one, and this was my first completed garment of the year. I found the stranded colorwork surprisingly easy, and I think you get a lot of bang for your buck in terms of impact. So yeah, go watch the video all about this one if you're interested. Next up in the garments category, I have my low tide sweater. This is another piece where I am so proud of myself for the quality of the finished product. I think the pattern is beautiful. I really enjoyed knitting it, especially learning how to do saddle shoulders. I think the fit is awesome on me. I love the color. I get a lot of compliments because of how intricate it is. I love the yarn to an extent. It does pill very badly, and of course, I accidentally felted the arms a little bit when I was blocking it for the first time. I have a whole video about this one too, so you can see that live on camera. So this one is going to require a little bit of fixing next year, but I do have 1 ball of yarn left, so I can lengthen these sleeves. I think what stands out to me most about this is just all these intricate details. Every single part of this pattern is well thought out, and I felt like I really advanced my knitting. I went from knitting quite simple garments last year to deliberately picking out things that were going to challenge me. And I'm very proud of this finished product. I wear it reasonably often, actually. My third garment is a real change of pace from the other 2. I knit this as part of a challenge to see if I could knit a whole jumper in a weekend. So spoiler, it took me a little bit longer than a weekend, but still I knitted as fast as I could. It's super chunky yarn, which although I love the color black, I love how it looks on me. It was a bit of a challenge to knit. It picks up on lint and like dog hair really easily, and this yarn pills like crazy. It is very soft, but mid-wear, you're developing pills that really bother me. So I don't find myself reaching for this one as often as I would like. The other challenge is, of course, the super deep V-neck. But I think it was fun to knit something really, really chunky, which I've not knit before. And it's a great lounging around the house jumper when you don't mind if you've got a little bit of fluff on your sleeve. Then I actually do really like wearing this one just because it's so soft and oversized. Most importantly, this jumper was fun to knit. I specifically chose it out to give myself a bit of a change of pace from the low tide sweater, and it definitely achieved that goal. So I had a lot of fun making it. I don't wear it as often as the other 2 jumpers. And my 4th garment for the year is my Ophelia blouse, which I cannot find. I don't know where it's gone, but it doesn't matter because it's not actually finished. It is a work in progress I'll be taking into next year. I have been filming my progress along the way, so there will be an Ophelia blouse vlog coming out. And currently I have finished the body. So all I've got left to do are the sleeves and the button band and the buttons. But there's quite a bit of lace edging involved, so it'll take me a little while. And I put it aside before I went overseas and I haven't picked it back up. So the Ophelia blouse will be my first lightweight summer style of garment. It's a fingering weight, so really small needles. It's taken me quite a lot of time, but it is short sleeve, so it kind of balances out. And I do think I'll get a lot of wear out of it. And we're in the middle of summer now, so I would like to finish it this season. So that's definitely going to be top of my list for next year. What I like about that pattern is it's really trendy. I think the cut and the fit are just really on trend and fashionable right now. So I love to knit things that I would be proud to wear and like something that I would have bought. I also like the color I've chosen, which is a beautiful bright purple. So with those 3.5 garments, that is all I knit this year in that category. I do have a full-time job on top of filming these videos and my many, many hobbies. So I don't have as much time as I would like to knit. Also, this year has been a very tough one for me. I've had quite a challenging year, lots of unexpected things happening. They really kind of ate into my knitting time. I would have liked to have knit more this year, but I did the best I could. So I'm pretty happy with 3.5 garments, and as you'll see, I more than made up for it in accessories. I still am really happy with the amount of stuff I got knit this year. Alrighty, so I've kind of broken these up into subcategories, and we'll start with one that was the first thing I made this year, and that is my felted beret. It's made of boucle yarn, and it was my first ever felting project, which I vlogged. I had a lot of fun learning how to felt with this. This was just meant to be a fun summertime kind of project, which it was. In terms of wear, I don't think I wore this at all this year. I maybe wore it one day overseas, but it's not the most practical thing ever. I don't really wear decorative headwear. I don't wear it to work because I feel like it messes up my hair. I wear beanies when I'm walking my dog or in the mornings or on the weekends, but I don't really wear beanies on the way to work unless it's super, super cold. So this, although it would be great because it would be something you could maybe wear into work, I don't find myself reaching for it very often. Also, the fit is not great. That's because I kind of winged it and I knew that when I made it, so I'm not too stressed about it. But I do think it's kind of cute, and maybe berets will come back in fashion next year and I'll have this ready to go. My next piece of headwear is, of course, my scone run hat. It's such a funny shape. I swear, it's ribbed so it stretches out to a knoll shape. And I made this as part of a test knit, my first ever test knit, and I made a video all about that. Now let's start with the things I like about this. I do love the color. I think the yarn is really cool. I do think it makes kind of a weird little target pattern on the top of the head, which is not my favorite. I did really enjoy being part of the test knit process for this. On the other hand, I had a lot of sizing issues with this pattern, and the finished beanie, despite my best efforts, is still pretty small. It's relatively short, it's a little bit tight, so I don't find myself reaching for it very often. It's also not very thick and warm, so I find that I want something a little bit warmer when I do want to wear a beanie. So I didn't get a huge amount of wear out of this one either. I'm not sure if I'm going to hold on to it forever or donate it next year or give it as a gift. But I did really, really enjoy the process of making this, and I learnt a lot about test knitting and gauge, and double knitting was part of this beanie. And yeah, I have a lot of good memories associated with making this. All right, I think my next piece of headwear is something that I gave away as a gift. It is a beanie inspired by a couple of different beanie patterns, and I call it my baby bear beanie. It's a baby-sized brown beanie with little ears. And I made it for my friend's baby who was expected at the end of this year, and they have been born. So officially this beanie has been given to its intended recipient. They are super cute, and the beanie was a heap of fun to make. I enjoy gift knitting a lot, but of course the baby size beanies are so quick, so it took me 2 days. I used a rib pattern which will stretch a little bit, so the baby can hopefully get maybe 1 or 2 seasons wear out of it instead of it being a one and done thing. I did have to think ahead because they're going to be 6 months old in winter time. So I think I've sized it right, but we'll see. My friend did not find out the sex of the child before they were born, so I had to pick something that I felt was pretty gender neutral, and I think it was the perfect choice of pattern there, and a baby girl or a baby boy would be super cute wearing this design. So yeah, I had a lot of fun with that pattern. If any more friends of mine have babies, I think I'll be making them a similar thing. My third beanie of the year was also a gift, so I don't have it with me, but it was a self-drafted beanie pattern, and on top of it I duplicate stitched a motif from the Knitnovation Stitch Dictionary. I call it my fat cat hat because the design on the front is a fat cat, a corporate fat cat, as in it's a cat, it's fat, and it's wearing a suit. It's very funny, it's very cute. I did this beanie in a blue and orange colorway as chosen by the recipient, and I think for the, what did I do for the brim? I believe I knit the brim double, but I didn't double knit it. I just knit it twice as long and folded it over, knit two together all the way around, and then knit the main body of the hat. It went really, really quickly on worsted weight yarn. It's superwash yarn. I really love the way it feels. I have some more of it that I want to make into something, and I think it makes a good gift. Much like the baby bear beanie, I think it's really important personally to give gifts that are machine washable. Just because I know my friends and family, and I know that they are not going to remember to hand wash a gift unless I made something really, really special and like heirloom. It's just got to be machine washable and probably dryable too. So I think that yarn, which was Pepin 10, is a real winner for gifts. What I also like about this self-drafted design was the size. I really nailed the sizing for the first time ever. I didn't make the beanie too small. And when I tried it on my head, although it's not for me, it didn't squeeze my head. And I kind of realized that all my previous beanies were too small for me. So I'm going to make myself another one. I've kept track of the stitch counts in Ravelry on my notes. So I'm going to make it to the same sizing for myself. Okay, I think that's all the hats. Next up, let's talk scarves. So the first scarf I made this year was on my Centro machine. I have a whole video dedicated to learning how to use that Centro machine. That's the big plastic 42 needle machine. I made a scarf for someone in my life who wanted a scarf to be frogged and re-knit using the same yarn. So she gave me the yarn, more or less. It was a whole saga knitting with that yarn. I hated it. I don't want to knit with something like that again. It was a bamboo or viscose or something like silky, and it was a real pest. The color was beautiful though, and I really liked the finished product. I did a slipped stitch design. So I actually knit a whole tube, and then I dropped down every, sixth stitch or so, and then I laddered it back up, but I skipped every other ladder using a crochet hook. And it created a really nice elongated kind of stripe design. Most importantly, the recipient is very, very happy with the scarf. She's happy she can wear something that she had associations with. She didn't want to wear it anymore, but we didn't waste the yarn. So I think that was really fun. And I like that the Centro machine gave me the opportunity to do something that would have just taken me too long, really, to feasibly make by hand. And it's something that's, it's not for like a super discerning recipient. She doesn't really care if it's machine knit or hand knit, so I think it was a really good move, and I loved learning how to use that machine. This scarf here is the next scarf I knit. This is a Simple Thing scarf, or a Sophie scarf. It's basically a triangular little skinny shawl. I followed the Simple Thing pattern originally last year, and then I kind of figured it out and I memorized it. So I didn't reference it for this, but I did want to style this after the Sophie scarf, which has a slightly more tapered end. And this scarf was using up a bunch of scraps and some new mohair. So I used a whole bunch of hedgehog fibers, multicolored scraps to create this kind of confetti effect, which I love. I love that from a distance it looks kind of white or cream, but up close it's got lots of color. The mohair is super, super soft, and I made this like extra long. It's almost as long as my wingspan. So it wraps around my neck a couple of times and is very, very warm. And I got a heap of wear out of this year. I think I will continue to wear it more next year also. So this was a really practical knit. I think I also smashed through this in just a couple of days, although it was a bit of a slog because it's kind of just back and forth knitting. It's a garter stitch scarf, so you're just knitting front and back, front and back. And I find that quite boring. It's a little less boring than knitting in the round because at least you get to turn, and the I-cord edge is kind of fun. But yeah, I'm not itching to make another one of these. And part of the reason for that is that I have made a second one of these. I made a blue version when I was overseas. So one of my very good friends who used to live in the same city as me overseas many years ago, she lives in London now, and I went there as part of my European trip earlier in the year, and she very kindly offered to have me stay at her house, which was so generous. And so I did visit her at the start of the trip just for a few days, and then I kind of went around Europe and I met up with her at the end again. So when I was in Denmark, I did pick up some beautiful Knitting for Olive yarn from the Knitting for Olive flagship store in Copenhagen, and I found they had a discount section with a blue mohair, I think. And so I picked up the matching merino, and I made her a blue version of this Simple Thing scarf. And I knit my little hideout on my trip. I finished most of it in Edinburgh in Scotland. and then on the train back to London. So when I came back to stay with her for the final week of my trip, I gave her this scarf, and she was such a good gift recipient. I really love when people are very enthusiastic about their gifts, and she was just so happy. She was very impressed, even though it's a garter stitch scarf, so that's always fun. And she was so happy with the colour. So it was really fun, but it means that I've made 2 of these scarves this year, so I'm a little bit over this pattern now. I'm sure I'll forget all about it soon, and I will be enthusiastic to make another one. I think it's a great gift because you don't have to worry about sizing or anything. You just pick a colour they'd like. I've actually been hypocritical here, and I've given her something that is not machine washable. However, I do give her a lot of warnings about it. And she is probably one of the more trustworthy people, so I told her just basically don't wash it. I mean, a scarf for an adult is a lot lower stakes than like a beanie for a baby or something for a baby, which, you know, babies throw up and things all the time. I basically told her not to wash it, and if she was to wash it, she should call me. So hopefully it survives. I did say she has a few stuffed animals. If she accidentally washed and dried the scarf and it shrunk, she could give it to one of her stuffed animals, and they can wear it. We'll see if that scarf survives another year, but I did really enjoy that project too. Okie dokie, I think that's all my scarves. So next we're on to socks. All right, the first socks of 2025 were the Hibernal DK pattern. These are hand knit socks, and I'm specifying because I have some machine knit socks to show you in a second. And these have a beautiful mock cable stitch on them, which I really like. So it's kind of like a ribbed pattern with a little cable. And these are DK weight, which makes them my thickest socks in my collection. And I really enjoyed knitting them. They knit up quickly, and I really enjoy wearing them. This yarn, although kind of rustic, is still very comfortable on my feet. I think the color is very neutral and suits a lot of different outfits. I learnt how to do not only the mock cable pattern, but also the princess sole, which is this inside out sole, meaning the pearl bumps are on the outside. It's very comfortable to wear, so I really enjoyed making these socks. But I very quickly moved on to some socks that I didn't enjoy making so much. Which ones did I knit first, actually? Maybe I knit these second, I didn't knit these first. I can't remember. But my next pair of socks are the infamous Drowse socks. So these are a brioche leg slouchy sock made out of some yarn that was gifted to me. And they appear on a couple of my podcast episodes because these took me so long. The brioche was not a lot of fun. I liked learning something new, but I very quickly decided I didn't like knitting brioche because I'm really slow at it, and I made a couple of mistakes and I found it a little bit challenging to fix. But once I was through the leg, the rest of the socks were super simple, and I enjoyed using some other yarn for the contrast heel and toe, which I hand dyed myself, and I have a video about that hand dyeing process. I dyed it with onion skins at home, which is really cool. Despite all the harrowing experience, these are fantastic house socks and I wear them a lot. I pulled these out of my laundry basket. They're really dirty, they need to be washed, but they're just very comfortable and loose on the legs. They don't cut off your circulation if you wear them to bed. And it will be interesting to see how these hold up. I mean, these have been worn a lot of times already, and you can see that the sole here is starting to felt, which is pretty typical in socks, I think. But importantly, the main color of the sock does not have nylon in it. So if I start to develop any holes in the foot of the sock, I'll let you know. Now, those are my hand knit socks for the year, but I actually do have 1.5 pairs of machine knit socks to share. You might have heard me mention I was building a circular sock knitting machine at home. It's been 3D printed with some purchased parts to supplement it, and I finally got that done this year. I learned how to use it, and I produced these lovely Halloween socks. So the main tube of these socks were knit on the knitting machine, and then I hand knit the ribbed cuff, the afterthought heel, and the toe. These took me quite a long time to make, only because it was my first time making them on the machine. I have started another pair, which I'll show you, and I got through the body of those in less than a couple of hours, so I definitely kind of ironed out the kinks in my knitting machine. However, something worth mentioning, these socks are super cute, so much so that I was desperate to get them done before I went on my trip. I did. I packed them, although some of the ends aren't woven in. I packed them and I wore them walking around Europe. And unfortunately, I must report that this yarn, which is the Shakemaya Regia Gargia color, but it's basically just like a Regia yarn, which I know is a popular brand of yarn. It's very hard wearing. It feels quite rustic. It feels not dissimilar to the Patterns yarn I used for these blue socks. It's almost unbearable to wear. I don't know what exactly it is, but having these on my feet is so itchy. It actually makes my feet start to burn almost. It's like I'm allergic to it or something, but I can't stand wearing this for a very long time at all. Unfortunately, I found that out because I was wearing them and I was out in the middle of London. I've tried again a couple of times since. I'm not sure what exactly to do. I think I'm going to give them a soak. I'll try to find some lanolin wash maybe. Yeah, they have a very Velcro-like texture, and I think it's just irritating my ankles. So I really hope I can fix that. Otherwise, these might be a bit of a failure, and I might have to find someone with sturdier feet than me. And I don't think I have very sensitive skin. I wear my mohair jumper that I made last year all the time with almost no issues. I just wear a thin long sleeve t-shirt under it and it usually doesn't bother me. There's maybe a little bit of itchiness up near my neck, but otherwise it's fine. I'm just not very fussy about yarns, and even to the touch, I wasn't concerned about this yarn, but something about it on my feet is just unbearable. So consider yourself warned. Let me know if you've used this yarn or like one of these lines. I know they have a lot of lines, but Regia yarn, if you guys could let me know if you've used it, if it's itchy to you, how did you soften it? Because I don't want to abandon these cute Halloween socks just yet, but I might have to. All right, like I said, I have had much more success using the sock machine on my second pair. This is just one of the pair, the other one's also done. But as you can see, I've knit the toe, I haven't quite finished the heel, and then I've got to do something about this cuff. These are a gift. They are supposed to be a Christmas present for my mum, but Christmas has come and gone and they're not done yet. But anyway, I've told her she's getting them. She just might get them a bit late. I really enjoy the circular sock machine, and I think it's opened up a world of gift knitting socks that, again, otherwise a sock is quite a bit of time commitment to make, and if you've got a lot of family members or friends, you can't make them all socks, but with the sock machine you definitely can. I also worked out a bunch of kinks with the machine. I'll probably talk about it more in a different video, but I took it apart a little bit and did some, not repairs, some alterations. I sanded some parts, I found some lubricant, tightened some things up, and it's a lot easier to use now. I've also nailed down the tension, so I managed to crank out this whole tube really quickly. So yeah, really happy with my progress on the circular sock machine this year. It has been quite a labor of love, but I think probably worthwhile ultimately in the time that I'm going to save in making socks in the future. So yes, this is another work in progress, much like my Ophelia blouse that I'm going to take into next year. These aren't technically socks, but of course I made my felted slippers inspired by the very viral sailor slippers pattern or striped slippers pattern. I have a whole video of me making these ones. They were quite a learning curve also, but I'm very happy with the finished product. I've only just made these. I haven't had a chance to really wear them yet, but I am waiting eagerly for colder weather so I can pop them on. I learnt a lot about sizing, getting the right gauge measurements for a felted project. Even though these are my second felted item of the year, I think the quality of the felt in these ones are a lot better. And I really enjoyed using up some scraps for this project. I think this is my only proper scrappy project for the year. This scarf used some small amounts of scraps, but there's still some left over, whereas I managed to use up almost all of the scraps of these colours, which were left over from last year. All right, and finally, it's not technically a knitting project, forgive me, it's a crochet project. I've showed this quickly before, but I'll just give you another look. This is the Alpenhaus blanket. It is a crochet throw blanket. I cast it on in winter time and I just took a break from it, so I haven't worked on it in a while. I'll probably pick it back up again when the weather cools down, but it is a good way to use this extraordinary amount of super chunky, not very soft yarn that I have, and I think it'll make a great piece of home decor, so next year hopefully I'll get this one done. Okay, I think that's everything. If I've forgotten something, future Sean will pop in and tell us. So yeah, let's get to the statistics. Let's talk about how many things I made and what kind of things, and just like a few reflections on how the year of knitting went for me. Okay, so if I counted right, that means this year I knit 17 items. Hooray! That is more than last year. So last year I knit 14 projects. My goal for the year was actually to knit 10 things. I had assumed that the projects I made this year would be a little bit more complex than last year, so I kind of revised the number down, but I still actually kind of exceeded my expectations. One thing I noticed when I was creating this list of everything I made in 2025 was just like how many accessories there were versus garments. So this year I made 4, if we count works in progress, I've made 4 garments and 13 accessories. And I kind of thought that was maybe a cop-out. Maybe I made like too many accessories and it's because I didn't have time. But I actually looked at last year's projects, and of my 14 projects last year, I made 3 jumpers and 9 completed accessories and 2 frogged ones. So they didn't get finished. They just got frogged partway through. So actually my ratio of garments to accessories has stayed consistent. So that's really good. I know a lot of other people make a lot more garments than I do, but I don't really care. And there are some other ways we can split up the projects though. The most obvious to me is things I've made for myself versus things I've made as gifts. So I made 12 projects for me this year and 5 gifts. I think that was a good balance. Last year I made quite a lot of gifts. I can't remember the exact number, but I think it was more than 5. And I think this year I really, really nailed the balance because I wanted to make sure that I was knitting for myself, knitting things I enjoyed, but I also really enjoyed the gifts that I made. I didn't feel like compelled to make any of them. I felt really inspired, and so none of them felt really like a slog. And my 17 items include 14 finished projects and 3 works in progress. I also have another work in progress I'm not counting because it was actually cast on last year and I didn't finish it this year. So that is my book club cardigan. I am hoping to get that one done next year because I really want to wear it, but I basically didn't work on it this year. I think I pulled it out for a month and knit some rows on it, but it has been put back away and I don't know where it is. So next year. All right, in terms of yarn weights, let me look at my list of projects. I think this year's most popular yarn weight was between DK and fingering. So I do think this year my yarn weights shifted to the thinner side. And I think that just comes with more experience and more speed. I'm able to work through projects on finer gauge more quickly than when you're a beginner and you're knitting quite slowly. So those chunkier projects are a little bit more appealing. Of course, it helps so much that I have the sock machine because that only takes fingering weight yarn and I'm able to produce it just so much quicker than hand knitting. Okie doke, and color-wise. So I think I did knit with quite a variety of colors this year. I was knitting pretty much exclusively from stash, so I was limited in that I could only use one of my many, many, many different colors from my collection, but I don't have every single color of the rainbow. I think I did lean a little bit blue this year, so not as colorful as I would have hoped. I did definitely have my bright red yarn and some bright pink yarn in my stash that I was really hoping to knit with, but I guess I'll put that into the next year bucket. If there's any other ways you want me to break down what I made this year, let me know and I can just reply to you in a comment. Not only is this the second year of my knitting, but it is also the first year of me making YouTube videos. I published my first video, I think December 28th of last year, so we're exactly 1 year later now. I hope you've enjoyed watching me make these. It does take quite a bit of time. I don't say that to guilt anyone, like I'm doing this completely willingly. I really enjoy it. But I was surprised by how much time it took up where you would otherwise just kind of get your knitting done and move on. I spent a lot of time having to steam things, prepare them, take shots of me wearing them, think really carefully about what I learned and what I would do differently. Make sure I take my Ravelry notes seriously so that that's there for you guys to reference. And importantly, I've learned a lot of other skills too. I've learned all sorts of things about video editing, kind of packaging and branding and marketing videos. And I've just developed a real respect for people who do this as a hobby or a job. So yeah, I think my video quality, hopefully, and my confidence in front of the camera has improved hugely since a year ago. I just rewatched my first year of knitting recap and that was really, really difficult to watch. But I have really enjoyed the community aspect of it so much. I've mentioned before, I don't have anyone in my life who knows how to knit or actively knits. So it's been really, really nice to be able to share with people who care about knitting and actually interested in what I've made. It's definitely given me some motivation to keep it up in like the middle of the year when things got a little bit rough in there and I could have just abandoned the hobby. I have enjoyed having something kind of keeping me consistent. I really like hearing from you guys. I'm starting to recognize some people in the comments. It's fun to read a comment from someone and be like, hey, I've responded to them before. So yeah, feel free to say hi down below. If you've spoken to me a couple of times in the comments and maybe I didn't notice, introduce yourself, let me know how long you've been knitting for and how many things you knit this year. Did you knit more or less than I did is the big question. Thank you if you've been watching my videos this whole year. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to next year. I have no idea what it's going to bring. I'm happy with the quality of my knitting this year. I'm happy with most of the finished products. I had a lot of fun knitting, had a lot of fun filming, making new friends with you guys. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what year 3 brings. I don't really know what's on the cards for me next year in my personal life, but you never really know. So I hope you'll stick with me. I hope I'll see you again really, really soon. I have lots of things I want to catch you up on, not the least of which is my European update. I did visit a whole bunch of yarn stores while I was overseas and I filmed all of it. So I can give you guys a bit of a guide about where I would recommend shopping for yarn and a recap of what I bought, because that was the goal. The goal was to buy no yarn this year, except for when I went to Europe. And boy, did I buy yarn in Europe. Yeah, thanks for coming along. Any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you guys again super soon. Have a happy new year. Bye.